Next up, Frank Holtz and Jaime Crespo will present what's new for ALLPLAN Precast.
Thanks, Ilona. Welcome, everyone. We had a tough job narrowing down the highlights. There's a lot to see in the new ALLPLAN Precast. After plenty of debate, we picked the updates we believe you'll enjoy most. Let's jump in. Frank, who is great with formulas, will reveal our most impressive newcomer.
Thank you, Jaime. You know me very well, and I agree, my love of formulas is definitely going to come in handy for this first new feature. I'm proud to present what I think is the most exciting new feature of ALLPLAN 2026, rule-based dimensioning. This new system is our first leap forward in the automatic associative dimensioning realm. In years past, you've had to create rules for each view on a view-by-view basis. In our new system, you can create individual rules that then can be applied to any viewer section, and currently they can be applied to the new element layout and eventually to the layout plans. To demonstrate our first new feature, we're going to be looking at an example of a wall. It's a pretty simple wall with a single opening, a couple of fixtures, and a little bit of reinforcement. To begin, we'll open our Generate View tool. From there, we'll go to the Label page, and under our Dimensioning section, we'll notice that we have a new option for dimensioning, and that is our Rule-Based Dimensioning. Once that's selected, you can set the dimension line rules by clicking the big Set button. This is going to open our Dimension Rules dialog box. The rules are in order from the ones closest to the view to the ones farthest from the view. To add a new dimension rule, you click the plus at the top, and then from the new rule option, you'll be able to select from a drop-down the existing rules that have not already been applied to this view. As soon as we place the view, we're going to notice that the dimensions are automatically created from our rules. And the nice thing about these new dimensions is that they can be moved after the fact, and changes to the model will not cause them to regenerate in their original position, only if some of the rules are changed. One thing we like to do here in the States is we like to put our dimension lines right in line with our fixtures. Just makes it a little easier for the guys in the yard so that they don't have to track back up to the top or to the side perhaps. These are associative, and any changes that are made to the objects will be updated on the dimension line. Additionally, if any objects are added or removed, those points will be added or removed from the dimension line as well. I'm going to undo the changes I just made so we can see a faithful creation of the rules that we've already created. There's a couple of ways we can access the new rules. One is through the Precast catalog, of course, but we can also access it from the defaults menu on the quick access bar. In there, at the very bottom, we'll select our rule-based dimension lines, and this is going to open up our brand new dialog box for our rule-based dimension lines. First rule we're going to look at is our edges rule. We'll see the name of the rule at the very top. The next thing we'll draw our eyes to is the house in the middle. You'll notice that the dimension line above and to the left is red, indicating that it's turned on. And the dimension line to the right and to the bottom is black, indicating that it's been turned off. If we did have all four of them turned on or opposite ones turned on, this would enable quadrant dimensioning, meaning that objects closer to the right will be in the right dimension line, and the objects to the left will be in the left dimension line. We also notice the DES bubbles. Those are for the descriptions, indicating that they've been enabled, which you can see below. And in this case, we're just using some static text of edges. The next rule we're going to look at is for our openings. And now you can see that we've actually applied a filter, OBJ22 and OBJ23. Those are going to be our doors and our windows. Right below that, we have grouping, which is enabled, but we don't have anything in the formula box. This means that every dimension point for this rule is going to be on the same dimension line. You'll notice that the bottom and the right dimension lines are turned on for this one, which you can see corresponds to what we have inside of the viewer section. For these objects, we're going to be using the min-max points. That simply means the leftmost and the rightmost points for the horizontal dimensions, or the topmost and the bottommost points for the vertical dimensions. And those are for the objects in question. Down below, you'll see there's referencing dimension. So not only are we dimensioning to the object's min-max points, but we're also dimensioning to the leftmost and the rightmost point of the objects in our view. The next one we're going to look at is our fixtures. Again, we're applying a filter for OBJ135. That's going to be our point fixtures. Again, we're going to group, but this time we're going to do dynamically by name, meaning that any fixtures that have the same name will be on the same dimension line. For our dimensioning points, we're going to use the dimension points. For fixtures, that's either going to be a reference point or additional dimension points if you've applied them during the creation of the fixture. Also, for this description, it's going to be dynamic as well. And you'll notice in our view on the right, for our T6A connectors, the dimension at the top has a T6A description for it as well. Next is the rebar dimensions. We do something a little different here in the United States. We like to dimension our vertical bars with a horizontal dimension line and our horizontal bars with a vertical dimension line. So in the filter, I'm not only filtering for reinforcement OBJ257, but also I'm using another attribute that the user has manually assigned to the bars, indicating whether they are horizontal or vertical. We're also using min-max points for this, which means we're going to dimension the full placement. If we did want to dimension to every single bar, we would then choose the dimension points for this one as well. Down below in the description, we're dimensioning with the mark, and we're also using the RA prefix and the RE suffix, which is giving us those bubbles. We can also use circles, squares, diamonds, or any other encapsulation that you use in other labels. Now for the fun part of a formula. This one is complex at a glance, but once you study it a bit, you'll see it's quite straightforward. What it's doing here is, anytime I have a placement with more than 3 bars, it's going to indicate the quantity, the size, and the spacing as additional text in the dimension line. Looking at the right, towards the bottom, you can see that the bars over my door, we have quantity 4, size number 3, and those are spaced at 1 foot on center. Hopefully you can see how powerful this is. With just 4 or 5 rules, we're able to completely and automatically define the construction of this wall here. The next new feature we have for you today are local views and sections. In past versions, when you had a view and objects inside of the view were moved or rotated, then they would become out of alignment or off center from the original position. This new functionality aims to solve those problems. In this next example, we'll be looking at a steel column on a concrete foundation. As with the previous example, we're going to start with our Generate View tool. And the first view we're going to create is going to use the existing functionality of ALLPLAN 2025, which we now call Global Orientation. And I'll place that view to the left. Now I'm going to create a new one using our local orientation, and for the reference object, I'll select the foundation at the bottom. This view will go in the middle. And finally, I'm going to create one more view, again using the new local orientation, but this time my reference object is going to be the steel column. Now that I have these created, I'm going to perform a simple rotation operation. First, I'm going to do it on the foundation object, and we'll notice that the center view is going to stay aligned with the foundation, and that 6 foot edge dimension is now still correct, whereas the two on the left and right are incorrect. Finally, I'm going to rotate the steel column. We'll notice that that right view is now in alignment with the rest of the structure, and that 6 foot edge dimension is correct, whereas the one on the left remains incorrect following the global orientation. At this point, I'm going to take a little break and pass it back to you, Jaime.
Thanks, Frank. Here's a long-awaited upgrade. Now users can add views and sections from the precast plans directly to their drawing files, quickly and easily. With a new multi-material element, it's simple to build layouts with several precast elements in one single file. Let's see it in action. First of all, I want to show you in the layout catalog our new multi-layer layout, which is nothing else than the same conditions as all existing layouts, with only one exception, and that is we cannot use the tables. So now that we have assigned for our wall panels a multi-material layout, we can close our catalog, and we're going now to create 2 element layouts, which is our new icon. Here we define or decide which layout we want. We can change the scaling, and in our case we will activate the automatic distancing because we are going to create 2 element drawings and place it in drawing file 9100. Once the program has created these layouts and placed it, we will see them. Let's jump now to 9100 drawing file and see the end result of the layouts placed in the drawing file. But of course, precast is never complete without proper reinforcement. And here's a treat. Reinforcement can now be shown hidden in both views and isometrics. And who better to guide us through this than my colleague Frank?
Thank you, Jaime. I would definitely say hidden reinforcement is probably one of the most hotly requested topics on my side of the world. And as you can see here, it makes it very easy to understand complex, complicated, compact reinforcement configurations. The new feature is easily accessible on the Formats page of our view settings. Unchecking this reinforcement checkbox enables the ability to control the visible and the hidden edges of the reinforcement independently of the model objects. The next new feature we have for you today is global mark numbering. This is great for when you want to mark things not on an element by element basis, but you want to mark it globally across the entire project. In our next example, we'll be looking at a slender wall system, which is comprised of a thin piece of precast with pre-loaded sheet metal studs. Sheet metal studs, of course, come in various shapes and sizes, and also different lengths as the project demands. In order to use our new global mark numbering system, we're going to first select one of our predefined schemas in the new attribute setting that we have down here. As soon as we do that, it's going to automatically assign mark numbers to all these based on its shape and its length. We'll get a glimpse of this by creating a quick legend that shows off the various mark numbers that have been created for our sheet metal studs. We can see that each of the different shapes has a different S designation, and each of the different lengths has a different L designation. These can be rearranged at any point in the project using the mark numbering tool found under the Structural Framing tab. Now we'll get a glimpse into how these are created, which can be found under the project settings. You'll notice a new mark number definition line, and if we click the little ellipsis button on the right, it's going to open up the new schema configurator dialog box. Here we see our definition for our sheet metal studs. It's comprised of two rules. One, which is the name of the linear fixture, its shape, which has a prefix of S, and the second rule is for the length, and that has a prefix of L. As you can see, it's quite easy to define these schemas and use these schemas, and I'm really excited to see all the use cases that our customers come up with. That concludes my portion of the presentation, but we're not done yet. We have some more cool stuff to show you, and I'll pass it back to you, Jaime.
Thanks, Frank. Our next highlight is the new connection palette, which is now part of the ALLPLAN property framework. It's easier to use, quicker to start, and helps you find your way fast. You can now adjust your model directly just by pointing and clicking. Let's look at some examples together. First of all, I want to show you the new connection icon and how we can use it now. So here is the new connection icon. Once we activate it, we have the same connector types and we assign it in the same way or very similar as in prior versions. But we have here now additional advantages which I want to show you. And the first one is that if we left click on an existing icon, handles appear and we can left click on the desired handles and then shift it to a new placement. As you can see, this is very intuitive and straightforward. Another advantage we have is that we can select now multiple joints or connections in this case and go to the property palette connections. In this case we have activated 22. We see that we have several parameters which we can modify and assign simultaneous to all activated joints. And last but not least, just to show you how quick this new palette activates, one left click, zack. Here we have all the parameters for this joint, which we can modify as we wish. Today, teamwork in construction is key. Different programs are used, so models need to work together easily. Sharing BIM data can be taught, but ALLPLAN helps us using built-in standards. As a result, IFC exports are always correct. Setup is easy, nothing is missing. Our motto is focus on design, not on settings. Let's see how it's done in ALLPLAN. In this example, we have 4 different precast elements. First of all, when creating the project, we have to go in the property palette and here assign the desired attribute set definition. We can pick the standard IFC common and make a copy of it and rename it as wished. If we go to the edit function, we see that this has now numerous precast attribute set objects, which ALLPLAN recognizes automatically based on the precast element we assign. So let's have a look. If we click now in one of these precast elements, for example the wall, we see in the palette that the attribute set object precast wall has been selected. Of course, we can modify it manually if we wish and assign it to another one. If we click on the column, this would be assigned automatically to a precast element constructive, also constructive precast element. The same with the beam. And if we go to the slab, we see that this has been now automatically assigned by ALLPLAN to a precast element floor. Last but not least, now stairs made with a new freeform stair modeler can also become precast elements. The old iParts solution was replaced because it could not handle new needs. The update makes modeling more accurate and lets stairs work with precast parts. The best part, even after turning stairs into a precast element, all settings can still be changed. Here's an example to show how it works. Here we see a staircase that has been created with a free stair modeler, freeform stair modeler. If we left double click on it, we see all the possible parameters available for the creation, and for our example I have just used the middle carrier so that we can then convert it to a precast element. We close it and we are going now to convert this to a precast stair. I just left click on the stair, we see now that we have all the parameters available for a precast element. Now let's see how our element plan looks like. For this special occasion, I have created a very simplified one where we can also see the outer and inner line of the staircase. And as you can see, it is a nice continuous curve with 15 steps, or 16 if we look at the first one. Now let's close this and let's do some modifications. So again, left double click, the stair modeler palette opens up, and in the settings we're going to do 2 adjustments. One is the steps amount, so we're going to change it to a quantity of 18, and we're also going to modify the height and close. We see that our precast element has also been automatically adjusted, and we can verify this by looking at the element plan, which has automatically been also updated. And that brings us to the end of our highlights. Thanks so much for spending your time with us today. We truly enjoyed sharing this sneak peek with you. On behalf of both of us, happy exploring with ALLPLAN Precast and have a great time discovering all it can do. Now, back to Ilona. The stage is yours.